So now Winona LaDuke. Winona LaDuke is an American environmentalist, economist, and writer known for her work on tribal land claims and preservation as well as sustainable development. You may recall that in 1996 and 2000, she ran for vice president as the nominee for the Green Party of the United States on a ticket with Ralph Nader. Ms. LaDuke is the executive director of Honor the Earth, a Native-led organization established by Winona and Indigo Girls Amy Ray and Emily Salyers in 1993 to address the two primary needs of the Native environmental movement: the need to break the geographic and political isolation of Native communities, and the need to increase financial resources for organizing and change. Ms. LaDuke works nationally and internationally with Indigenous communities on the issues of climate change, renewable energy, and environmental justice. Please join me in welcoming Winona LaDuke.
Ani Nindawe Maganaduk. Hello, my relatives. How are you all today? What a great conference. I'm sorry I was not able to be here earlier. I've been a little under the weather. And so I've been kind of been laying around pretty much. You know how that goes. Sometimes you just lay around. So I'm standing now. We'll see how that goes. I want to talk about the concept of Minobamanaziwin, which is the good life, which is an Anishinaabe concept, which I think pretty much equates to the economics of happiness. And it is contained within the value system of my own community. And I want to contrast that with something which I refer to as Windigo economics. Windigo economics, the economics of the cannibal, which is, I'm pretty much sure, what we're in the middle of right now. And I want to call it out, and I want to talk about where we need to go. And I'm going to just say a few things, and I know we won't get that all solved today, but I got a few ideas. I'm going to show you my community and what we've been looking at and where we've been. But I want to say, and you are all an enlightened bunch, so you don't really need the lecture that in my language, in my community, this moon now is called Banakwe Ogizis. It's when leaves start falling. And then we have a moon that follows that. It's called Gashkaden Ogizis, which means when they freezing over time, right? Manadu Gizisun's little spirit moon, Gichi Manadu Gizis, great spirit moon, Nemaben Ogizis, sucker moon. It's kind of a fish. You've heard of sucker? Then we have Ona Bonagizis, that's the hard-crusted snow moon, usually around March. Iskigami Zigigizis, maple syruping moon. Wabganagizis, flower moon. Odamanagizis, strawberry moon. Mean Gizis, blueberry moon. Manomanike Gizis, wild rice making moon. And the moon that we just finished, the Watibaga Gizis, when the leaves change color. I often like to just start with that because, that gives you the idea of a worldview that is based on a place, on the plants that are there, and that the world that the Creator gave us, and that's our understanding. And I also like to talk about it because we live in a different construct, and did you notice that none of those moons is named after a Roman emperor? It is possible to have an entire worldview that has nothing to do with empire. You'll all be okay. It's good. It's okay. So this is where I live. I live in the middle of the White Earth Reservation, Gawawe-Gamug, Round Lake. This is some art from our territory. This artist, Ray Thomas, he's passed away, but this piece is called We're All in the Same Boat, which I think is kind of where we're all at, right? No matter what color we are facing all the same world challenges. And we all see them. I mean, a lot of the people here have not watched too much Fox News, so they got an idea of what's going on, right? Let me talk about making America great again. So this is my idea of when America was great. 8,000 varieties of corn. None of them developed by any guys at Monsanto, right? Tremendous agro-biodiversity. tremendous agrobiodiversity, tremendous biodiversity. You know, the single largest migratory herd in the world, 50 million buffalo, took up the same territory that today 28 million cattle take over. You know, individuals like the Poppers, I don't know if any of you remember Frank and Deborah Popper. They did a study on the Northern Plains a few years ago, about 20 years ago, and they said, you know, might as well just pull up all those fences because nobody lives out there anyway. Why don't you just return it to buffalo? You know, and just think, you know, but buffalo require an ecosystem. They require prairie grass that is 8 feet, you know, that is diverse. But buffalo can survive a blizzard. Cattle run from a blizzard and buffalo face it. It's really interesting. And as I think about in the time of climate change, what are we going to do? I'm mostly interested in these cool old dudes. You know what I mean? This is my territory. This is our rice, our most sacred food. This is some of our mythological beings rising. To us in our creation story and in our migration story, we are instructed to follow to go to the place where the food grows upon the water. That is our wild rice. And this is our ricers today. This is the Thompsons out on Big Rice Lake. Some stalwart ricers as they are. And so that is my community. This is, I think, a little bit about where we are in the bigger picture. You know, this conflict between two worldviews, and I really think it is time to, I refer to it as the Sitting Bull plan. It is time to move beyond the Trump plan. It is time to move to the Sitting Bull plan. So let me talk a little bit about my story. I live in this beautiful place, and a few years ago, 5 years ago, this new pipeline proposal was proposed through my territory by the Enbridge Corporation. It's called the Sandpiper, a fracked oil pipeline intended to carry 640,000 barrels a day of fracked oil from North Dakota. And we fought them. We already have 6 lines through there. We are in a country which has a lot of aging oil infrastructure that none of us knew about. We're in a country that has a D in infrastructure. We are in a country that, you know, our infrastructure is literally falling apart. And so what has been happening with the Koch brothers and such is the attempt to put in a new set of pipelines. And so we had 6 old pipelines, but they want to put in a whole new line down that southern route, which would bust through the best of our territory. And so our community full on opposed them, as did a lot of other people. You know, some of your relatives probably, non-Indian people in northern Minnesota. You know, people who have lakeshore homes. You know, we fought really hard in the regulatory process, and a year and a half ago in the federal court, or the state court in Minnesota, forced the state of Minnesota to do an environmental impact statement on this pipeline, which they didn't think they had to do, you know, because these states are, I mean, you know, New Mexico is different than Minnesota. We have no oil. We have no oil. And so we had no vested interest in the movement of that oil. We're only a conduit state. So the results of that massive resistance by tribal people and by the citizen groups resulted in the Enbridge Corporation announcing the cancellation of that pipeline. 4-year battle, a 4-year battle. On August 2nd of last year, they announced that they canceled that pipeline. And then on August 2nd of last year, the Enbridge Corporation announced that they had purchased 28% of the Dakota Access Pipeline. After, of course, telling the citizens of Minnesota that it was the only possible route through Minnesota, right? And so this is what we saw, and a lot of you were there in North Dakota. A lot of you saw the brutality. You know, a lot of you, some of you were probably there. Were some of you that were here, right here? I know a lot of you, we got a lot of food from this area, thank you, and a lot of support. I just want to thank you for supporting us, the water protectors. You know, this is the people I work for, the water protectors. And, you know, we fought a really brutal battle out there, and it was wrong what happened to us, because the system doesn't really work. I mean, we could pretend the system works, but the system does not work in North Dakota. And I'm not really clear that the federal system is going to be working for a while. What was that? I totally know that feeling, though. It's like, let's just be real. I mean, But anyway, so this is what it looks like. But part of the reasons that this all happened, is this. I mean, so this is some tanks that, this is some equipment that ended up in North Dakota, right? This piece on the right is called an MRAP, mine-resistant armored personnel carrier. Surplus from the military. Now, why Stutzman County would need something like that, Stutzman County with 5,000 people would need an MRAP, beats me, right? They don't even have a building that would require that you could plow through. They have like mostly farms. And then that other piece is an LRAD, long-range acoustic devices. And this is, outlawed by Obama, or banned by Obama, but reenacted, reapproved by Trump, not surprisingly, is the surplusing of military equipment to civilian police forces. Now, all of us know that there's disparities in how brutality is applied. At some level, they thought they could just get away with it because we were a bunch of people in North Dakota and nobody was going to pay attention. We were a bunch of Native people. But there were thousands of people who were not Native people there. And we all saw that. We all took a lot of shots. I have family that took injuries. We took a lot. One family that was arrested. And so it didn't happen in a vacuum. But kind of the question to me is like, what do we want civil society to look like in our future? Should these battles over the future of infrastructure in this country be fought with large military against our people? And to me, this is like a lot of the issues. So this is our camp in winter there. This is our camp when we left it. And interestingly enough, this piece, there's one of the original is at the Institute for American Indian Arts, and it just got moved to a farm here. This piece, Not Afraid to Look. Charles Rinconta's piece, he's standing there with LaDonna Allard. And this piece, was originally, I don't know if you know the story of this piece, but I met Charles through this piece, but it was originally an effigy pipe. So that was like a little guy on a pipe and the bowl was in front, right? You understand what I'm saying? And so it was a ceremonial pipe for praying, and it was called Not Afraid to Look at White Man. And the only thing left of us out there is that. I mean, that's how brutal they were. And you all know that. They trashed all the food, they destroyed everything, they bulldozed every structure, although there was no lack of people who needed that stuff, right? But it was just the cruelty and the meanness and the vengeance of the system. And so, I am battle scarred from that for sure. And I have a little PTSD, and so when Enbridge came back with their next 915,000 barrel a day pipeline proposal, in the same territory, I said, no, that's not going to happen either. And unfortunately for them, we all saw what they did out there. We saw that if you invest 28% in a pipeline like that and you don't stop, I called them and I asked them to not, to ask for an EIS or some assessment or to stop the militarization or to stop shooting at us, and they did nothing. So we hold them responsible for about 28% of our injuries and 28% of our arrests and 28% of the tanks and at least 28% of my PTSD. And so when they showed back up this year with these new hearings, they are meeting thousands of water protectors. Thousands of water protectors. And so I'm just gonna say one more thing before I get off my little discussion about pipelines. And to be honest, I think that what I'm going to talk about is food, which is what I actually like to do. I'm a traditional farmer in my community. I'm obviously a writer, but I didn't choose to be on the pipeline battle. It was just by necessity that someone had to go face to face with these guys, and I was like, okay, we got this. Come on, let's go. But what I want to say is that I think of this as the last big pipeline battle. And you're all down here, and so you don't really see the north, but I'm just going to say that there's been a big push to bring tar sands into this country, right? And so the Northern Gateway and Enbridge pipeline was canceled last year. Energy East was just canceled last week. Right? I don't know if y'all know this, right? And then Energy East is owned by the same corporation, TransCanada, that's proposing Keystone. So everybody said, well, they're probably going to go back to Keystone. Well, I talked to our attorneys and others, and they said they don't have any shippers for Keystone. And they don't have the contractors to finish, and they don't have Nebraska, right? And the third pipeline that is up is called Trans Mountain, and that is in litigation. So this is a 915,000 barrel a day. It's the largest pipeline that would come across the border, and it would cross our territory. And so I'm asking you to watch us at Honor the Earth and watch our community. And I always say, if you didn't get arrested at Standing Rock and you want a chance to get arrested, come to Minnesota in the spring, because if they issue that permit, we are throwing down. So just to invite y'all. We're setting up our camps already. Okay, so the Sitting Bull plan and where the future is. This is what a sustainable economy looks like. This is 10,000 years of ricing on exactly the same wild rice lake. In the case of a wild rice harvest, all you got to do is take care of your lake. If you take care of your lake, you get to be the people who eat off that lake for 10,000 years. Unless, of course, something disastrous like a mine or oil pipeline gets there, right? That's why we are so pitched about this. This is a lot of the work that I'm interested in. I am mostly interested in the restoration of traditional corn varieties. In the northern plains, particularly the area now known as the Bakken oil reserves, that's on the upper Missouri River Basin, and that was kind of like the Nile Crescent of corn. Immense agro-biodiversity coming from Mandan, Arikara, and Hidatsa territory. Some of the most amazing varieties, and the thing that I'm mostly interested in is the variety on the right is one of ours. It's called Bear Island Flint. So hominy corn, you guys are all cool on this, but it's like got twice the protein and half the calories of a sweet corn. And our corn is drought resistant and frost resistant. And when the big winds came through a few years ago, they blew over all Monsanto's varieties, but ours stood. So my thinking is really is growing for climate change. You know, and everything is changing around us. Let us be the people who know how to feed our people. And that has to, by necessity, be done locally, because food security is involved with localization. I mean, the fiasco of Puerto Rico. I mean, you know, I would just really like if I had like another, brain in there. I'm just like, someone has done that, but I'm like, where is their totally local economy? I mean, we all understand colonialism, but I'm like, that's the example, is you need small, local, resilient, complementary, cooperative projects. So when I first grew my corn, I thought I had failed. My father used to tell me that he didn't want to hear my philosophy if I couldn't grow corn. And so then I became a corn grower, and then I first grew my corn, and I thought, it's so short, I'm not a good corn grower. And then I met this guy, his name is Frank Kutka, he's at the University of North Dakota. He's actually works for USDA. He's like, I'm the heretic at USDA. And that's his corn. But my point is, but you're all from down here. It doesn't need to be tall. It just needs to put on its ears, right? Okay, so what I want to say is that, as we face the daunting times we are in, I feel like someone has to question not only it's not even the sanity of the model, because there's no one here that doesn't question the sanity of the model, but I'm like, it doesn't even work in their terms. So I always like this chart, because I spent all this damn time chasing oil companies, right? So here's these guys. Like, look at this. At 2011, 80.4 billion in net income. 2016 down to 3.7 billion in net income, and that's Exxon, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips, right? These are like the powers of the world, right? Now they lost a whole bunch of money, huh? They lost a lot of money, and so they can't be that smart. You understand what I'm saying? And like if I was the CEO of Exxon and I went from 40.1 billion in net income down to 2.8 billion in net income, I would probably not have my job anymore, would I? No, but I would get hired by the smartest guy in the world because I am Rex Tillerson and I'd be the Secretary of State, right? But my point in this is like, people in my community, I live in a rural area in northern Minnesota. I get to hang out with cool people all around, and I'm really privileged to do so. But people in the north, or people in a lot of these rural communities, just assume that corporations will win. They just assume that someone knows better than them because they've been told so many times that they are not as smart as those who are our leaders or whatever. And so when you show them something like that, we show them a lot of cases, we just beat them once, then they're like, oh. And so to me, this is part of the moment. And so to me, part of what I've been thinking about, and you all are probably thinking about it more than I, is that I feel like they took the political system. They stole it. And we're going to work on getting it back, but pretty much they stole a lot of the political system, but they didn't take the economic system. They're trying to, but they didn't because of this. Like all of their ideas, like even Rex is still trying to figure out how to do something. And if you look at oil futures, you're like, Rex, I'm so sorry. It's just not going to work out. Look. All your forecasts are so low, Rex. The fact is between the divestment movement and the investment and people wanting to move into something that is not caught on the vagaries of world politics, world oil, and insane people with red hair who scream at you. You are finding a huge investment into relocalization. You're finding an investment into, renewables. Yeah, I'd really like to see that. I heard that Tesla said that they could redo Puerto Rico. I was like, wouldn't that be great? I wish some big foundations would work with Tesla to do that. Wouldn't it be great to say, Puerto Rico, President Trump doesn't even know that you're part of us. Puerto Rico doesn't even really want to be part of it. But let's just do the right thing, right? And I have to say, Mariel, my friend, is here, but this has nuclear in it. And if someone could just take that nuclear, or some person could just take that damn nuclear out of that chart for me, I'd really, Yeah, I just need some person who's got graphic skills. That's not me. So if there's a young person here, I'm really sorry about that because I'm fully aware of what that says. And I'm like, oh, that's right, damn it. Okay. So this is what the future looks like to me. My dear friend Bob Goff, recently deceased, this is one of his maps. I think I made him put white earth on. I was like, come on. He only had Western tribes. It turns out that Indian reservations are the windiest places in the country. I'm not sure how that worked out, but you look at, the work that is, going on here with the new energy economy. Yeah, I love those guys. And, the potential, Navajo is the juggernaut. We all know that. Those ancient coal generators, and where they just buy an aging coal strip mine from BHP Billiton. That's like the dumbest things I ever heard. But, so much renewable potential and certainly no lack of power infrastructure to get stuff out, right? Time to transition. So my interest is in the next economy. I just I go to these meetings with the Enbridge and I'm like, can you just quit? I want to move on. I'm done. Your ideas are dumb. They're stranded assets. They're stranded assets, they're liabilities, they're junk. And pretty much that's what I tell them. It is time to move on. And to Enbridge Corporation itself, I say, you have a $7 billion renewable energy portfolio. Why are you wasting our time with $7 billion of pipeline? Come to us with renewables. And so there's a huge ground battle going on in our territory over that right now. People say that we can't meet, renewable energy demand. Renewable energy will never meet present demand. And I say, why would you want to? if you waste 57% of your power between point of origin and point of consumption, why would you want to try to meet that? So the answers are in a lot of the systemic changes that need to happen, and a lot of those are not going to happen in Washington. They are only going to be happening in our communities. Because by necessity, power with the people is the future. For all of these reasons. For efficiency, for some kind of security in a time of climate change, for having local employment, for making sense. And then the divestment movement is also moving things towards us. So I'm going to tell you about my little village. This is a film that came out a couple of years ago called The Seventh Fire. This is a shot from it. I live in the village that you don't want to live in. Well, let me just be honest. I live on the lake. The village is where all my kids go to school and all my grandkids go to school, because we have a great tribal school in that village. And it's a HUD housing project, and we have a lot of the problems other communities have. We have a meth epidemic. We have everything you don't want to have, we have it. And so I've been spending, 25 years of right now I'm focused mostly on this village, but I feel like I'm trying to, I want to say unfuck things up. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out how to deconstruct that mess. If you understand what I'm saying. And nobody wants to do it. There's no trickling down to this community. I'm saying the money doesn't trickle down there. Programs don't trickle down. There's 10 jobs in the whole village. So my question is how you build a local economy in this village. And so I have 300 people in this village. There's probably about 500 around there. Most of them are related, I'm related to by my descendants that are all from that village. And I hang around a lot with a bunch of 11-year-old boys. And it's humbling, it's so fun. And then it's also like, so, what's it going to be like for them? Right? Because a lot of these boys ain't going to leave that village. And so what if we made it a village that you wanted to live in? Not a village you wanted to run from and you could never get out of because you didn't have a car, or you didn't have a license, or you didn't have gas money, which is the story of my village. So let us try to make a local economy. So this is a little bit of how we started. I've been Balmy Alley, I think it's called in San Francisco, in the Mission. It's an alley that's every garage is painted with a different mural. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Well, you guys live in Santa Fe. It's everywhere here too. But I got the idea that what if we took a housing project and turned it into an art project, right? Because you live in Santa Fe, so you appreciate that the depth of change that we are making. It's not just change the food system or change how people think. It's change how people feel about themselves. It's their spiritual practice. It's it's what they're eating. So my daughter refers to these girls as the bad girls. But they're Wolf Clan, and that garage was all tagged up. And so we painted it, and my mural crew has just returned for the next round of paintings. This is us putting solar thermal panels on houses. And we're building a solar thermal manufacturing facility in that little village. And we have just, let me see if I got this. Isn't that great? This guy is named Anthony Sewell. That's the artist. He's like a remarkable California native. And he just loves us. And he likes the frontline battle, and he likes that not only are we engaged in the frontline battle, but we would like to move towards the solution. And so a lot of what I am facing is I'm saying, Enbridge, you're going to spend, $7 billion to try to destroy us and leave us, 20 jobs is what you say. Let me show you what 20 jobs looks like. But we'll make more than that. So we're doing this. We set up a silk screening. So we have our own local silk screening now, and he trained my son. A bunch of youth are silk screeners. This is for Honor the Earth. It's our water tower. Isn't that great? And so I don't know if changing what people look at makes them feel better about themselves, but at some level it does when things start to change. This is our idea for our future of what energy security looks like. This is microgrids and solar parks. You know, this is the Leech Lake Reservation, heavily impacted by Enbridge. And I keep telling them, I said, you should just tell Enbridge, this is our idea, it's way better than yours. You know, and as tribal communities and as tribal nations, as reservations, we have jurisdiction in our territory over a lot of these issues, including public utilities. And so it's going to be a long process because they are not capitalized, but they are starting to be, and we are hoping to see more movement, you know, in the transition of divest, invest into the work in these communities. But, you know, this is the Leech Lake, and they have, you know, huge potential. This woman inspired me. This is Winona LaDuke up in the tar sands territory. Little Buffalo. She, her master's thesis at the University of Victoria was to build a 20 kilowatt solar project to power her diesel generated powered health center in her village in the middle of the tar sands. I mean, what a great master's project is that, right? She's like, I'm just gonna do this. So I got to be on her master's committee, watch her in her process. And so now we're doing 20 kilowatts for the tribal school in my village. And I have to say, thanks to Judy Wicks and some of the others here, that is made possible. And in part, that is also made possible because people contributed to Standing Rock. And people understood that, you know, there is a dream that is born there, an experience that was held by all of us, and something that is not only not forgotten, but changed us all. And as we move forward, you know, we continue to work with the community out there, but we are re-emboldened in our own community to build what is right. And to say, Enbridge, this is the last pipeline battle. This is the last battle. And then there's this. Now I know everybody's here is very cool. Did you all notice my hemp outfit? I have a Kickstarter. Winona's Hemp Kickstarter. If y'all can, try to donate. I'm trying to raise basically $100,000 in the next 40 days. It's a lot of money, but what I'm doing is I'm actually interested in hemp for fiber. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's like, no, you want to grow marijuana. I said, no, I want to grow hemp for fiber because everything we're wearing these days is so toxic. And we all feel bad about it. And then all those microfibers show up in every river and stream and in the bellies of all these fish, and it's really messed up. You know, so I'm like, we got to do that again. So Minnesota has issued hemp permits. And for 2 years, my partner Don and I have had industrial hemp permits. And so we're interested in growing hemp for fiber. And you know, what I'm really interested in is how we're going to rebuild that industry. Because we don't have any milling in this country. And in Minnesota, there were 11 hemp mills in 1943. Isn't that interesting? So I'm like, let's just do this. So I'm growing hemp, but I'm mostly growing cool vegetables, but I'm growing hemp too. I'm saying I'm growing both because I have this affinity for cool vegetables and kids. And I've never grown on my own land, and I need to have my own land upon which to grow because the tribal land that I've been growing on is super depleted, and I can't take care of it, and it's getting oversprayed. So this is my community. This is my cool squash. Geteocosum, and it's called a really, really cool old squash. That's what we call it. And this is my role model. If people ask, see, everybody knows that guy, right? If you want the answer to urban food production, there's your guy. Will Allen. 3 acres, 1 million pounds. Now, if Will Allen can grow, 1 million pounds on 3 acres in Milwaukee, what's up? You could talk about urban agriculture anyway, but I'm saying there's how you do it, right? I'm not an urban person. I'm a rural person, but I understand and I love him so much, for the inspiration that he brings us. But, what I know is that this is this moment in time. It's really our spiritual moment to make this change. We could be the people that sit there and hope for the best, or you can be on the front line. You can do something, whatever it is. You don't want to be caught saying you wished you did something, right? And I know all of you are. All of you are. But, think about what it is you can do. And I just show you this piece of art. This artist is named Wotan. In the city of Duluth, we gifted this art in the city of Duluth on a giant building. And she's a water protector. Is that cool or what? She's like 40 by 60 feet. She's like super badass water protector. Looking over Gitchigumi, the Great Lakes. And so I know that art gives power. I know that art reaffirms us, and I know that my people in the city of Duluth and elsewhere who have been invisible, particularly Indian women, are very visible now. And so I'm really proud to be a part of that, that movement. That's our organization to follow us, but thank you so much for your time. Miigwech, and don't forget about my Kickstarter, please. Thank you.